Welcome to the Drawing Board. I'm your host and in-house artist, Erin Leffler. If you're not familiar with the Drawing Board, here's a quick recap of what happens on the show. Every episode of the Drawing Board, I invite a guest from the comics and entertainment industry, and we learn a little bit more about what they do. And while we learn about what they do, I'm also drawing them. Pretty fun, right? Well, my guest this week is my first guest like this. He's done so many cool things, including Disney's Fam Jam, which is a really awesome show if you haven't seen it. He does a lot of cool things with dance and choreography, and he even has his own site where you can find some of this cool stuff and take some classes. Please welcome my guest, Philip Wright. Hi.
What's up, guys? How's everything?
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. There was a lot of stuff I had just mentioned in there, and kids may not know some of the details of it. So why don't you tell us how would you describe what you do?
Oh my gosh, that is pretty complex, man. Wow, I dance. I'm a mentor. I'm a leader. I travel. Well, I used to travel a lot before the pandemic hit, but then I ended up doing a lot of Zoom classes and whatnot. Just for everyone to know that I'm a producer. I have my own TV show on Disney Channel called Disney's Fam Jam, and also do have my own website, which you guys can catch a lot of my classes that I teach via internet. Yeah, I'm also making tutorials available. So all in all, I'm a choreographer that is on the upcoming and looking to inspire the world any way that I can.
That is absolutely amazing, and that's super duper cool because I've seen a couple episodes of Fam Jam, and that is just a super fun show. So that's like really cool that you get to do stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because how that started off was I actually started teaching class at a local dance studio in Hollywood, and I ended up calling it the Parent Jam, and I created my own genre of, well, particular type of dance class that you can take, and ended up incorporating the parents inside of the class to dance with their kids. So that blew up, and then some months later, a producer reached out to me by the name of Irene Dreyer. And she said, "Hey, I think this is a TV show. I think we can take this to Disney. And I think blah, 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 blah." And I'm like, you're not serious right now, you know? And she ended up, 9 months later, we ended up being in the Disney office, getting the green light to broadcast our own TV show called Disney's Fam Jam. So, yeah.
That's super cool. Now,
Mhm.
this sounds like this is something that you have an extreme passion for doing and you absolutely love. How long have you been doing this?
Wow, I've been teaching for a little over like 12 years now.
Wow,
Um,
that's
yeah,
really
yeah, for a very long time. I started teaching in my freshman year of college. I taught at a local dance studio, and that studio just so happened to have a lot of kids in it, um, which explains my big kid following. You know, that's where I started. Um, but um, that's how everything kind of like started for me.
yeah.
And yeah, man, it's been great ever since. And I never look back.
That's super neat. And I absolutely love the fact that you started out in college because not a lot of people I have had on the show so far have been like, no, I started out kind of like later on in life. So it's kind of cool to hear somebody that started out kind of,
Yeah. I
early.
mean, I think it's imperative that if you can find what you love to do as early as possible, man, jump into it, don't look back, get into it, and really, really embrace that love that you have for whatever you want to do. A lot of people get sidetracked with money and a lot of different things, and that can kind of lead you astray. So just stay true to your heart, and you know it'll happen for you. I promise.
Absolutely. Now, the world of dance is so much different compared to maybe acting or writing or artists, because that's more mainstream. You kind of hear more about people who do stuff like that, and more names are more well known with that. But for you, were there people that you knew that were professional dancers or choreographers that you just like absolutely admired that really inspired you to get into what you do?
Wow, dancers and choreographers. Fatima Robinson was a really big inspiration for me. Um, Calvin Hodge is another great, great inspiration for me. Just because I feel like they came from the same environment that I came from, and they inspire me to know that no matter where you are in your life, you can, accomplish anything, So um, that reinstalled the faith in me to just kind of keep moving forward. So yeah, those are just a few, but like celebrities like MC Hammer is just, oh my God, like you don't understand. MC Hammer was everything.
Oh
And
no,
it's so
that was
crazy
like,
that
I remember that growing up. MC Hammer was it.
he was it and he still is it. You know what I mean? Like such a legend. And it's just so crazy how full circle I ended up was able to work with him, yeah, and choreograph for
Oh,
him. And, so growing up, having that experience, knowing that I seen him on TV to now is just mind boggling to me.
that is amazing.
Yes.
Now, I love getting to ask this because this is a show where, we're gearing this so kids can learn more about the jobs that they might want to do down the road and also learn about, like, you know, things that they can actually like and enjoy. Something I get asked a lot when I do Comic-Con guest appearances is kids don't think that we do stuff that we enjoy outside of our jobs.
Right.
So, for you, do you have any hobbies that you like to do outside of producing and choreographing?
Yikes. Me and my buddy, we go and play tennis.
Oh, that's fun.
We try. Let's just say that we try to play tennis. Okay, we try to play tennis. Um, tennis. I like to play poker every now and then with a couple buddies of mine. Um, you know, I've enjoyed fishing when I was a young boy. Um, you know, I'm cool with just just living life, you know. Um, but there's a lot of things. I'm open. I'm an open book, pretty much. I like a lot of different things.
That's awesome. That's the common thing whenever I do a Comic-Con. I hear a lot of kids tell me they're like, it just kind of seems like, you guys can only do your work and that's how you get successful. And I'm like, no, I'm like, I want them to see like we
Uh,
can enjoy life outside of it and it actually makes our work better when we do.
yes, absolutely. It really does, and it alleviates pressure. You know, it alleviates a lot of pressure, and it embodies some sense of normality to your life all over again. And it's good to have that type of fixation for you. You know,
Definitely.
it's really good to have that.
So this is a question I love getting to talk about, especially with stuff within Hollywood. There's a lot of competition that's bred. It's a spirit of competition, whether it be against other people for a job, whether it be for, oh, my show's better than yours. There's a whole lot of competition out there.
Always.
That's something I hate seeing because I feel like there's so much room for everyone out there, and I just want kids to know that it's okay, to be able. So for you, do you find that it's easy to be competitive, or do you find that you can kind of build like a nice little creative group where you can learn from and become friends with these people?
I think it's all inspiration, to be quite honest. A lot of my friends, my peers, and my coworkers, they are. I don't look at it as a competition statement. I look at it more as what are they doing that I could do, right? That
Yeah.
can help me in my business. I'm never trying to compete. You always hear that slogan like you compete with yourself.
Mhm.
Um, compete with yourself, don't compete with anybody. But the truth of the matter is, honestly, is that as much as we don't want to compete against each other, it's always going to be perceived that way, you know. Um, Although you just want your business to succeed, it's going to come off it's going to come off as you being competitive with the next door because nothing's new under the sun, you know.
Yeah.
Someone's always doing somewhat similar to what you're doing, and no idea is all of a sudden original. It's been thought about already. As much as we want to think that it is, it's pretty much been thought out. But I don't like to look at it as competition. I see it as inspiration. And if it's bringing any type of negative feelings to my, you know, environment, I I 86 it. I get it out my way, and I don't I I refrain that from getting in between me and my goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a good way of putting it because a lot of people don't think that they can remove that from their lives. So
Yeah.
knowing that that's
Mhm.
something you can do, I think is very important. Now,
Mhm.
along with that, something else that's really big in Hollywood and a lot of jobs in just general, rejection. We get
Yeah.
rejected from a lot of things, whether we like it or not. It's always going to happen. Is that something that kids should be taking personal, or can they use that more as like a learning experience to use for down the road?
No, you never really want to take any of that personal. Although, let's just say, I mean, come on, we do take it personal, right? Like you always think about, man, I'm such a loser. I'm this and I'm that. But all of the no's and all of the rejections that I've got, I wouldn't trade them back for anything in the world right now. I would not. I would not. Because those no's and those rejections ultimately led to the path that I'm on right now. Um, and when you believe in your path and you believe in solely what you do for a living, you have to appreciate those no's. You have to appreciate those rejections, you know, um, and you have to believe in the process.
Yeah.
And to be quite honest, the process is more enjoyable than the actual achievement, you know? Because I always look back and I'm like, man, I used to struggle. I used to do this, but there were good times.
Yeah.
There were always good times. So you never want to get down on yourself. All the no's and rejections are just uh, routing signs for you to get to the place that you need to get to.
Absolutely. And I love that answer. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, this is something I love making the show kind of like, fun and full of energy and everything. So, this is something I love getting to talk about. We're all fans of something outside of what we do for work, whether it be maybe a comic book, a movie, whatever it is. We all have that one thing we're just kind of like, this is my thing. So, for you, what are some of those things that you just absolutely love?
Yeah, man. Back in the day, I was a big WWE fan.
Ah!
I was Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, Macho Man's Randy Savage, the Andre the Giant. I used to get in my living room and walk down the ramp like I was the Rock, if you smell. Like I used to do all of that stuff. I was a huge, huge fan. So, just to kind of lighten up the mood, I was
I
a
love that.
diehard fan. Yes, yes, yes.
I had my
WWE.
buddy on here, James Eigelhart, and he was the same way. He was saying that he's like, I was in the WWE so
Yes,
yes,
I I was the internet. I was the Intercontinental Champion for 3 weeks. I was the World Wrestling Federation champion for a month. Okay, all right. I was everything. So yeah, man. WWE was it for me. I don't watch it anymore like I used to, but
I was the same way growing up. I was like only girl probably in my school that was like wrestling.
yep.
My dad and I would just go back and forth. I'm like, hey, you see that? That's totally a great thing, and I think it's really cool to like things that are like completely maybe like opposite or
Absolutely.
similar in ways
That
because
has nothing to do with your profession. You
it
know.
yeah because it just kind of lets you be yourself more, and I think that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So you
Absolutely.
had a really fun career and you've done a lot of cool different things. I was taking a look around your website and that's really neat as well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Within that time period, there's got to be some things that you've learned over that, over the past 12 years that maybe you didn't know when you started out
Uh-huh.
that would have been very useful to you. So what are some of those things you wish you would have known when you had first started?
I wish I would have known how I wish I would have known or thought about how important patience was, or is. I was such in a place where I wanted everything quick. I wanted to tackle everything. I wanted to get to the final destination like via next day. But I come to realize that substance lies within the patience itself. You know, that's the ingredients. You gotta let the soup brew. Let it happen for you, because anytime that we get a quick fix, um, sometimes it can be inauthentic, and sometimes it can, the quicker you go up, the quicker you can fall, you know what I mean? So I always want to, once I reach my success, I always want to know the value in that, you know what I mean? And patience is a key component to learning how to deal with that value and learning and understanding and comprehending what that actually means, you
Yeah.
know. I think that's really, really important.
That is a great thing, and I think that's something that gets forgotten very easily because we're
Yes,
living in a society where everything is there right in front of
yes,
you. It's just
absolutely.
everything's so accessible that we kind of
Yeah,
forget that there's stuff that goes into making these things. So I
yeah.
think it's a wonderful thing.
Hmm.
Now, I'm sure with having the career you've had, it's been a lot of fun. You've had a lot of cool experiences with what you do. Now, something that interests me though, because you had mentioned it before, you originally started out doing a class where you got the parents involved. Now, that's not something
Yeah,
a lot that you hear with dancing. A lot of times it's just like a kid's dance class or an
yeah.
adult dance class.
Hmm.
What gave you the idea to get parents and kids involved together in doing this?
Well, I thought about, at that time, I'll be honest with you, I was thinking about how can I make a little bit more money? How can I make this class it, How
Yeah.
can I be different, you know? And that was one of the first initial thoughts. And then it came along the lines where it's like, you know what? All the kids that I see online are pro dancers, you know? It's
Mhm.
time to give some shine to the regular dancer that comes into class and takes class willingly and just has fun and without any uh without any bondage to say, you know what, oh, you got to put me in the middle, or you got to videotape me here, you got to do this here and there. Like, I wanted to highlight the student that was always overlooked, and that's what I wanted to do. And with doing that, I think the best way to kind of help that person build up some self-esteem was to incorporate their parents, because they never want to let their parents down, right? You know,
Yeah.
everyone wants to impress their parents, you know. Um, but that's what I initially did, you know.
Yeah.
I I did that, and it's been a huge, huge success because now everyone's dancing on TikTok and all of this stuff. So it's been great.
And I have to admit, that honestly took me back at first because I did end up looking up some videos, and it is very interesting because there is a stark contrast between, dance studios where you can tell, like, oh, they're putting the person they think that the best is in the middle, compared
Right.
to
Right.
having these people who maybe wouldn't put themselves in the middle or wouldn't be with their parents in the middle. That I think that's a really amazing thing, and I really think it's cool that you highlight that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's really, really important for me is because when I get home, the amount of messages that I receive from these parents are crazy. Like, them telling me, you don't know what you've done. We've gotten so much closer. I've never had a relationship with my child like this. I've never even thought about doing this. And it's amazing to see.
That was actually something I was going to bring up because that's something special. That's creating a bond through something, a medium outside of maybe just talking in the family or doing an activity as a family. Dancing is a special medium where you can connect with other people.
Hmm.
How does it feel knowing that you were a part of something that is maybe helping parents connect with their kids or they get on better terms because they're doing this?
I mean, it's really inspiring. I think on every day of set that I was on my TV show with, I was I always cried, always. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
just seeing something start from a small seed to blossom to something that's crazy right now on a global scale
Yeah.
is amazing. So, you know, I get very sentimental, um, because not every child has a parent out there to dance with.
Mm.
And ultimately, we come to the realization that we're all family. Everyone doesn't need a parent to enjoy themselves and dance with one another. we are all family and we're here for one another. So I think that's the reason why it has a sentimental value to me.
I love that. That's amazing. Now, I'm sure there's been a lot of cool experiences you've had with that, with filming your show. Are there any experiences that you had that just kind of like stick out in your mind that you know is just going to be something you're going to keep and remember forever?
Wow, so many, really. I think it's really goes back to that notion of parents DMing me, direct messaging me, saying, "Hey, this was crazy. This is amazing. Like, now I'm gonna start exercising. Now, I'm gonna spend more time with my children. You know what I mean? Like, I think that is the one narrative that I keep holding on to.
That's a really good one, and that's got to
Mhm.
be such an amazing feeling to know that, somebody out there really appreciates your work. I think that's kind of the
Yeah.
driving force of anything,
Hmm.
any art form, is that knowing that your work has affected somebody that way.
Yes.
Amazing
Yes. It
thing.
has. Hmm.
Now, I have to ask because this is a great thing. You've done choreography, you've done your own dancing thing. Now you're a producer as well on a show.
Hmm.
That's also a little bit of a different avenue, and I love getting to talk about these different jobs on this show because a lot of kids don't know what goes into these things because
Yeah.
everything's so deceptively simple to us because it's just right there.
Yeah.
What goes into producing a show? Can you walk us through a little bit of that process?
Wow, producing the show. Wow. Hands-on, starting from the ground up, being present, um, developing great material for everyone to enjoy is sometimes can be a test and challenging, just because I'm not the only producer in the room. There are other producers as well that are working together like collaboratively, like like to really you know produce the best content,
Yeah.
and it's hard. I'll be honest, it was very, very hard for me at first because I'm just so used to talent. I'm the talent. You know what I mean? Like, I'm the talent. I get up and dance. I'll teach you a routine. I'll motivate you. I'll inspire you and all that stuff. But producing is another thing. This is where you see like all the background work, where you see um, where you see all the ideas float across the room, like all of that stuff. And you have to be okay with being the talent and the producer. Like, I want to be many things. I don't want to be just a choreographer. You know what I mean? And I've installed that into my brain many, many years ago. So to know that I'm transitioning into being a producer, which I am, um, it means a lot to me.
Now that's something interesting because you do often, when you're producing something, have to work with multiple people, and that collaborative thing can kind of be hard to get over. That's a weird hurdle to get over sometimes, especially when you're not used to it. Do you
Yep.
ever find that when these ideas are being thrown out at one another that it's a little harder to take at times?
Sometimes, yeah, more times than often. Like like more often than, and like it happens a lot. You have to be able to deal with having an open mind and not be so biased with just your opinions. You know how many times I wanted to say, "Listen, this is my show. This is how I want it to be,"
Yeah,
but I had to think about the betterment of the production. you know Sometimes I had to set aside my feelings and say, you know what, it's not about only what Phil wants, it's about what the world needs.
right.
So that's something that stuck with me ever since, fulfilling those shoes.
No, that's a great point, and I think that's a good thing sometimes to remember for us to step back and be like, what's the end goal behind this? It's
Yeah.
not just all about what I want. So
Hmm.
now, something else I'd love to touch on because you mentioned it a lot in your live streams. I absolutely love watching it. You talk about during this pandemic, you've been doing classes on Zoom. And I think that's such a cool thing because
Yes.
a lot of people have taken to dancing, especially during this pandemic with the boom of TikTok going on. And now Instagram's got its own section called Reels.
Yeah.
Dancing's kind of become a big thing overnight. So tell us a little bit about the dance classes. What made you come up with this idea that you wanted to start doing them on Zoom?
I mean, well, look, the pandemic was number one. I've, and online learning has been around before the pandemic hit, right?
Yeah.
Um, but now I've gotten to the place where um, I want to I want to be an owner of my own things. Like I need to own my own product.
Yeah.
If people want to get in contact with me, they have to come to Feel Right Inc. If they want to dance with me, they have to go to dancewithphil.com. For many, many, many years, I've been spreading myself thin with going to other companies, other platforms, and supporting their brands and, using my popularity to help their business grow, et
Yeah.
cetera, et cetera. Now, I'm not saying that that was, not needed, but I just feel like there's a time to transition now. You know, I need to transition, and now everything that I'm doing and producing comes from my business and my business only. I still have relationships with those outside platforms, but now is the time to kind of prioritize Feel Right Inc. and Dance with Phil and all of those things. So right now, currently, and you mentioned before, um, students will have to go to, let's just say, Outback Outback Dance Studios or whatever. Let's just make up a name, right?
Yeah.
They would pay for that class over there, and the Outback Dance Studios would bring me there and to teach a class. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm gonna start from here. People have to go to dancewithphil.com to get your tutorials, get your Zoom classes, get your merchandise, all of that stuff. And I think it's just important for us to start owning our own business. And I encourage all the listeners out there to um, ask that question to yourself: how much do you really own?
Yeah.
How much is it really yours? Or how much do you really like? Think about how much do you really own? Just simple like that. And I had to ask that to myself a few times, and I've been just so motivated to push my brand, which is dancewithphil.com, where I'm giving away free dance Zoom classes, where I'm giving away merchandise, all of this good stuff, Zoom classes, tutorials, all of that. So,
Yeah.
mhm.
And with that, that's something I think that kind of gets also blurred between things because you think you have to be on it. You have to respond to these companies 24/7.
Mhm.
Setting boundaries is kind of an important thing with that, isn't it?
Huge, huge boundaries and standards.
Yeah.
Let's just say now I'm an owner of my own business. Now, if Outback Dance Studios wants me to come, my rate goes higher because my priority is different.
Yeah.
My priority is Feel Right Inc. Outback says, you know what? I understand, Phil, you don't want to come out and teach at our studio, but what is it going to take? Hmm. Now I have leverage. Now I have a negotiation tool. Now I can say, you know what? It's going to take $1 million for me to go to your studio. Can you make that work? Now it's going to be an obscene number. That's an obscene number, and that's crazy. However, how far is that company willing to go to pay your worth plus more?
Right.
You add value to yourself when you start thinking about your own business. When you start prioritizing yourself first, your value increases essentially.
And you had just mentioned it about knowing your worth. I think that's an important thing with any job is knowing that what you're doing is valuable. Is it important that kids know that they shouldn't undervalue or kind of like undermine their own work?
No, no, absolutely not. Like it's it's important to find a baseline. It's important for us to test the waters. Like I have friends that say, you know what, I would never do that job for X amount of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
But why not? Why not? Why wouldn't you do that for X amount of dollars? There's someone over here that would though.
Yeah.
You know, oh well, I would never just do that. It's just too cheap. It's not my worth. I'm da 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 da. But how are you gonna find your baseline?
Yeah.
How are you gonna increase? How are you gonna figure that out? You can't figure that out by turning everything down. You know, um, look, and I say this to my students all the time. McDonald's has a wide menu. You can either get the number one, the number two, the number seven, or if that's too expensive, you can get something from the dollar menu, right?
Yeah,
It suits everyone. Everyone is fulfilled. And
absolutely.
that's what I kind of take. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
never turn down a job, and I'm never here to say, oh, my worth is this, da 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 da. Da. I've gotten to that point because I found my own baseline.
absolutely. I absolutely love that. I love the example you just used because that's such a good one because you think about it, there's something that everyone can get to
Mhm.
on that.
Yeah.
Now, last question for you before I show you what I was working on over here.
Okay. Okay.
If there's a kid that's wanting now to be a producer, to be a choreographer, be a dancer even, or if they're even just interested in learning about these things from watching this now, what would you want them to walk away from watching this knowing?
Ownership. Ownership. Start now. Do the background work now. Incorporate your company. You can start when you're 5 years old. Mommy, I want a hair tie business. Okay, what are we gonna call this hair tie business? Popsicle Pop. Okay, let's incorporate Popsicle Pop. What do I have to do? All right, Google. We have so many resources right now at our fingertips that we can do literally everything from home. You
Yeah,
have all the resources, you have everything that you need to succeed. Ownership is the key. Ownership and starting as early as possible and understanding that the now you're gonna phase out the no's because you're not giving anyone an opportunity to tell you no because you are doing what you love and you're the boss. You're your own. You're the owner. You are the CEO. So now, with if anything, you're not receiving the no, you're giving the no's. You're saying, no, no, thank you. It's okay. So yeah, ownership.
love it. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. That was absolutely amazing. And now for
Thank
my
you.
favorite part where I'm able to show you what I was able to work on while you were talking. I hope the computer doesn't mess with the colors because it does sometimes thanks to these
Okay.
lights. So if it does, I apologize and I'll get the actual digital copy to you later.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yay!
Yay!
Well, thank you again so much for coming on, and thank you so much to everyone who tuned in. Again, I am your host and in-house artist, Darren Leffler. Catch you next time on The Drawing Board.
Peace.
I don't know how else to get. I'm like, hands. Okay.